Welcome to the Flynn Brothers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea. We're obsessed with teeth.
We talk about our own teeth and why we take care of them, then give a brief history of oral hygiene.
Later, we share some teeth statistics before delving into flossing, fluoride, and what distinguishes good dentists from bad dentists.
Finally, we talk about American tooth propaganda and end with our God-given rules for teeth, the Teeth Commandments.
It's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Teeth. Chompers. Pearly whites. We're fascinated by them. We love teeth. We love fake teeth. We love breath, oral hygiene, all of it. We're going to talk about all of it on our We're Obsessed with Teeth episode. And I want to start at the beginning because I find it fascinating that as humans, we are not born with teeth. We are born with, I guess you'd just call it a gum pocket. What would you categorize when you're born and you're a baby? What is your mouth sans teeth? What is it?
Just sort of soft and pink and not good for nothing.
Yes,
you know?
I mean all you're having is milk or formula, right? You're not eating solid foods,
Various
right?
viscous fluids.
And then it's funny. You get the baby teeth; those start coming in, and I remember as a kid always being fascinated by when your baby teeth fall out. Because when you're a kid, it's your first sign of, oh, I'm growing, I'm getting older, I'm getting my adult teeth. But now looking back at it, it's not really your first sign of growing. It's really your first sign of dying. You're experiencing, oh, my God, things that I had before are falling out, are no longer working. You know?
You'll never have those teeth again. Those teeth, they're no good to you.
No, they're worthless.
It is pretty horrific to be about 5 years old and just... I mean, having your teeth fall out is one of the more traumatic bodily things that I think can happen to you, and all of them go.
Yeah, and I think, when I was a kid, I remember one time I had a tooth that wouldn't come out, and I remember it was either dad or a babysitter did the old tie the floss around the tooth, and the other end of the floss goes around the doorknob, and ka-chow, the door gets slammed and the tooth gets yanked out, and that's a particularly gruesome way to get the teeth yanked out, isn't it?
It is pretty medieval, but also fairly ingenious.
I think so, too. Well, as we got older and our adult teeth came in, they didn't come in great. How would you describe what your teeth looked like as when your adult teeth first came in before you got orthodontics?
Buck and crooked. It is pretty wild that almost nobody's teeth comes in right. It comes in perfectly. You'd think that evolution would have selected, perhaps, for better, straighter teeth, but in my case, certainly not. Yeah, huge front buck teeth that were shooting out every which way. Obviously those had to be corrected with braces.
Yeah, I mean, my teeth out of the box, they were bumpkin teeth. They're just spaced out and jagged and just terrible. And it was good. I mean, it was really good. We both got orthodontics just because it was very costly, Mom and Dad had to pay quite a bit of money. I think it's gotten a little cheaper as time has gone on.
Yeah, with Invisalign and all that. But we had a orthodontist who was literally right across from our school. Right. So occasionally, one of our first tastes of adulthood, we would go to the office and be like, I got an orthodontist appointment. We'd leave the school, walk across the street. They'd, crank up the tightness on the metal brackets that were glued to our teeth, and then they'd send us right back to school, which was pretty funny in retrospect to just be like, I gotta go somewhere. I can't be at school. I got an appointment.
Yeah, I gotta go to the doc. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, in our day, wearing the metal braces, very unattractive. I mean, the cool thing was you got to pick your color of the rubber bands or whatever those things are, and then they would change them out every couple of months.
Yeah, and there were the ones that were just regular, then there were the ones when they were really trying to bring your teeth together. They were linked to the rubber bands. And I remember I definitely had those for a while. And whenever you left the orthodontist, your mouth was just tight. You had a tight mouth.
Yes. And I remember on your molars, they put in things called brackets, which those kind of ground the braces. And then if you're like me, I mean, I had before I got orthodontics, I had a huge overbite. I was basically like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. Cheese, Gromit, cheese. And I had headgear I had to wear at night, and the headgear you would put into the slot into the brackets and it would go around your head and you'd have to sleep with it all night. And I think I had to do it for like a year to correct an overbite. And it's just unbelievable. I mean, I'm lucky, I didn't have to wear it to school. That was like my secret shame. I never, if his friend would want to spend the night, I'd be like, no, you got to go home at 10 o'clock. I got to do something. Don't worry about it.
You're like Fiona from Shrek.
Yeah. I'm a werewolf. It's that. No, it's not anything more embarrassing. I'm a werewolf. Yeah.
Headgear is like the nerdiest piece of orthodontia that you can have. The going around, when it comes outside of the mouth, that's really devastating.
I was lucky as a kid, as I was entering middle school, I was getting over my orthodontics, but I was starting to get glasses, and I was so happy those two didn't overlap. It's like, I can have one, but I can't have both. You know what I mean? But yeah, orthodontia definitely has changed a lot. And I think, when we had orthodontics and braces, it's pretty tough to brush and floss. You got all that metal in your mouth. You can't eat certain candies. It's very prohibitive and restrictive, and it's just tough to brush and floss. And I think like a lot of people who have braces, maybe it's better now because the technology is better, they just don't take brushing and flossing very seriously, which is ironic because you're getting all this work done to have better oral hygiene.
Yeah, I didn't floss at all with my braces just because you needed that special floss that had like the pointy plastic end, and then there was the spongy bit, and then there was the conventional floss that you pass through. Just an extremely laborious task. I was not going for it, and I remember specifically when I got my braces off, my gums were inflamed.
Yes.
They looked terrible, and I was flossing like a madman to try to undo the damage. I think the day I got my braces off, I flossed no less than 4 times, just trying
borderline too much. You're
much,
trying to undo the work. It's
yeah.
like you don't exercise for months and months, and then you're like, I'm going to run a marathon.
Although I will say they snapped back pretty quickly. I think within a week of regular flossing, I was back.
I had a similar experience where, it was just hard to brush and floss. And even like, I had the bracket on one of my back molars, and the only cavity I have to this day was from the tooth that was encased by that bracket. And I couldn't brush it really because it had the bracket on. And so I only have one cavity, but back in middle school, post orthodontics, I was like you, I wasn't taking brushing and flossing super seriously. And I remember going to the dentist once, and the dentist was like, do you know what plaque is? I'm seeing some plaque here. Do you know what plaque? And I was like, it's like bad for your teeth. And they're like, it's basically a bacteria that eats away at your teeth. And just the image of that, like I could see myself in this nightmare having just like nibbled down, shark teeth, and like the plaque had just eaten away. So it terrified me. So ever since that moment, I was like, okay, I got to brush and floss and take it really seriously. And one of my all-time highlights, often when I go to the doctor, it's not the best news, but when I went to the dentist and I was taking brushing and flossing seriously that next year, I went in, I was very nervous. I was like, God, I've been brushing twice a day and flossing once a day. I hope I'm doing a good job. And the dental hygienist is silent like the first 20 minutes, just slowly, picking at my teeth with the tools. And I'm really nervous. And she's not wiping too much on that little bib they give you.
Right.
You usually clean your teeth, wipe it on the bib. And she's not really wiping on the bib. And I was like, oh, God, what'd I do wrong and stuff. And then finally, after 20 minutes, she just looks at me and kind of lets out a sigh. And she's like, there's nothing for me to even do. And I was like, huh? And she was like, yeah, no, your teeth are great. And I was just like, oh my God. And so I think, that's how like an athlete feels going to the doctor. I go to the doctor at my physical, I'm getting scolded, but now at the dentist, it's like, oh, I'm like kind of excited to go, you're the
one
excited.
Doctor who's pleased to see you.
yeah. Jim, finally.
The guy who listens to everything I say.
Yeah, my model patient.
Hey, put the fear of plaque into you.
But I think that's why a lot of people don't go to the dentist or the doctor is their fear of a bad review, right? Nobody wants to walk into bad news.
That, and if you don't take care of your teeth and you go to the dentist, it will hurt.
Yes.
You will bleed because your gums have not been taken care of properly, and they're just screaming. They're letting the doc know, busted, guilty. There's no way to futz your way around a dental visit.
Yeah, but I think we both take a good amount of pride in our teeth. We don't have the finest teeth in the world, but we both take pride in them. And you have a rule sort of about teeth and what teeth convey to the general public when you give someone a smile. What do you always say about teeth?
Sure, they're the only bones you can see.
Right. And then, disclaimer, teeth are technically enamel, but I think it's a good point. Teeth are the only bones you can see. It gives people an idea of what do this guy's bones look like. And if you have good looking teeth and you take care of your teeth, it's like, all right, I bet the inside is okay. But if you have like messed up teeth or bad breath or whatever, it's like, oh God, it's like if he's neglecting that, what else is he neglecting?
It shows that you have discipline in private, that you can do something that is difficult. Nobody ever wants to brush their teeth. Maybe the only time I want to brush my teeth is when there's like you've been eating something sugary or something, or if you've for whatever reason in the morning you haven't gotten to brush your teeth, and then there's that nasty like carpet that forms on your
film,
teeth. The filth, it's just disgusting. That's when you really want. But nobody ever really wants to like can't wait to brush my teeth, and ooh, this time I get to floss as well. But yeah, it shows that you're able to do difficult things when no one's watching.
It gives a mirror into your overall health, if you will. The teeth are the mirror to your soul, if you will.
Yeah. The eyes may be the window, but the teeth are the mirror.
I personally, I have a weird fascination with teeth where whenever people are talking, I'm often looking at their teeth. Like I am listening to what they're saying, but I feel like it's that a classic movie trope where a guy's like looking at a woman's breast and she's like, my eyes are up here. And it's like, people know I'm just staring at their teeth the whole time they're talking. It's like, it's not like I'm judging. I'm just like, everyone has like unique teeth. It's like a snowflake. No teeth are the exact same, right? Unless you get giant fake teeth, like, you know, when you're in Hollywood, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, do you find yourself as you're talking to people kind of inspecting their teeth?
They are revealing of who you are for whatever reason. You know, when somebody smiles, the difference between a person smiling and a person with their lips closed is typically quite a different person.
Yeah, it's true.
And yeah, if somebody has a unique set of teeth or large, beautiful teeth, you look at them in a different light. You know?
Right. They have food in their teeth. It makes you question, right? But we were doing the research for this podcast. We were kind of digging into oral hygiene, and you had found, and similar to how you did the history of the horse, you have, for our listeners, compiled a history of teeth, a history of oral hygiene. What would you like to call this?
A brief history of the tooth. No, a brief history of taking care of teeth.
Taking care of teeth. Okay, so take it away, buddy.
Here we go. I mean, as we all know, humans have a variety of different teeth in our mouth as we are omnivores. We eat a bunch of different things.
We got molars and incisors.
Some cutting and grinding.
Right.
I believe I was allowed.
Oh, sorry. I dove in. Sorry.
Okay, so the first time we really start taking care of them, or that there's evidence of this, is way back. Pre-3000 BCE, started in ancient Egypt, Babylonia, frayed sticks. You know, you basically break a stick apart, use it to pick out your teeth. Wow. Toothpick, you know, the early toothpick. Also, people used abrasives such as charcoal, sand, and crushed shells, which I can't imagine is recommended by dentists today, although there are those like charcoal toothpastes.
I think they're criticized, though. They strip away enamel, and in the case of these other abrasives, these ancient ones, sounds like they would just tear your gums to shreds.
Yeah, I imagine they'd had to be pretty fine. You were getting in there with like a finger or something like that, and just kind of, I think that was for the people who couldn't stand the carpet of film that accrues on the teeth. 15th century China, we get bamboo and boar bristles. So you're sticking bristles of a boar through holes in a bamboo stick.
So it's not a lot of brushing at first. It's more just picking crap out of your teeth.
Getting it out of there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also the advent of processed foods and sugars has necessitated more teeth brushing, which brings us to Europe a little bit later, I believe around the 17th century. There's a man named William Addis who is credited with inventing the modern toothbrush. He was in jail when he did it. He saved a bone from the dinner, drilled holes in the bone, and then passed horsehair through it, different from the boar bristle. Glued it, and then used it, found that it works, gets out of jail, mass produces the design, becomes rich.
Wow.
Yeah.
When he mass produced the design, I assume there were some modifications from chicken bone and horsehair, right? It must have been slightly different.
Yeah, yeah. He certainly changed it up. His company, Wisdom Toothbrushes, still produces 70 million brushes per year as of a 2002 article. There hasn't been much news since on,
interesting.
on Wisdom Toothbrushes.
Okay.
Some Asian cultures practice tooth blackening, where you turn your teeth a much darker color, seen as a sign of beauty and maturity. Didn't really catch on in the West. DuPont invents the nylon toothbrush in 1938, and in the United States, toothbrushing was not standardized until World War II, as it was mandated for GIs, and then they bring the habit home.
God, that is fascinating. And flossing, was that along with it? I feel like it was flossing post-World War II. I feel like that that maybe is a little more recent than that.
Yeah, I think there's some that went into it, but I think brushing was really, people,
Brushing,
you're always getting into brushing before you're getting into flossing.
Yeah, it feels like the general public is okay with brushing, but there's we'll get into some statistics later. They don't love to floss. You're doing a little research here on the fly.
Brief research. Dr. Levi Sabir Parmley, a dentist from New Orleans, is credited with inventing dental floss in 1819.
Okay.
But you're not getting the real.
But in terms of
silk dental floss, 1890.
So in terms of modern brush twice a day, floss once a day, this is basically end of the
World
last
War II.
half.
World War II is then when it starts.
Last half of the 20th century
That's
into
right.
now. Wow, that's
Right.
fascinating. That's
so
fascinating.
for the majority of human history, people have had terrible breath and bad teeth.
Hey, there you go. Well, class dismissed. That was very good, buddy. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Ba-dum. Teeth stats. All right, we're going to do some teeth statistics. Very cool of our music department to whip up that jingle for us.
Is that a horns? A
Yeah,
brass section?
something like that, yeah. But you looked up a couple of these teeth stats. You do the first couple, and then I got one I like, but you go for it.
School's back in session. These facts courtesy of the University of Illinois, Chicago. The CDC report cites that 1 in 4 adults between the ages of 20 and 64 currently has at least one cavity.
Now, when I saw that statistic, I thought it would be way higher. Like only a quarter of people have at least one cavity. Like that's crazy. I feel like most people I know have at least one.
Well, not me.
Well, that's true, but the tooth you did have a cavity got
Guy got knocked out.
got knocked out.
Well, not knocked out, but
Yeah.
came out when as a boy.
I forget I socked it out of your mouth, didn't I?
Two.
What's this other CDC statistic you got?
According to a recent CDC report, nearly half of all U.S. adults ages 30 and over have some form of periodontal disease, which continues to increase with age.
Now that's crazy because the 1/4 and then this is half, but periodontal does that have
that's gum related.
So that's gums versus teeth,
Yes.
right? And we already talked about people are okay brushing, they're maybe not as okay flossing. So what is periodontal disease? What is that?
That's gingivitis is one of the periodontal diseases, but gingivitis can turn into periodontitis. I've never heard it said out loud. That's the first time I've heard it.
Periodontitis. Maybe, yeah.
That sounds right. So it's an advanced form of gingivitis, and it's just horrific. It's like a nightmare. Bright red or dark purple gums. If you have dark purple gums,
Yeah.
you gotta change.
Seek help. Yeah.
Gums that bleed easily, bad breath that won't go away, pus between your teeth and gums, loose teeth or loss of teeth, and new spaces that develop between your teeth that look like black triangles.
Oh, God. It's one of the worst list of symptoms I've ever heard. And I watch a lot of TV advertisements with the big pharma ads, and some of those are terrible. That is awful, man. The black triangles. Good God.
It's like something pirates would get.
It's like a curse.
Yeah.
Why is it so geometric in shape?
'Cause that's, I guess, the space in between your teeth.
But then, we've talked, in private about this, and now we're speaking in public, so I'll bring it out into the light. But, when you don't take care of your teeth, people are always like, well, how does gingivitis and not taking care of your teeth, how does that lead to, like, heart disease? Or how does that lead to other factors? And what we've always talked about is, your mouth is basically like a petri dish, right? It's a moist, warm environment that is perfect for bacterial growth, and you're constantly swallowing throughout the day, right? So if you don't take care of your teeth, you have this just petri dish of a mouth where you're just swallowing day after day, minute after minute, hour after hour, and it's getting into your bloodstream, getting throughout your body, and then that's how you get these other diseases, right?
Yeah, the bacteria is feeding upon the rotting remains of every meal you've ever eaten stuck in your gums. And if you're a regular flosser, you know a lot of food gets stuck in your gums.
And you can get, it's like heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, respiratory problems, sleep apnea, kidney disease, cancer. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right?
What we're trying to do here is basically what the dentist did to you with plaque. We're trying to scare people into wanting to floss and brush their teeth.
If people do take care of their teeth, it's sort of a pat on the back. Hey, good job. Look what you avoided.
Yeah, there's this oncoming train that you stepped aside of.
Absolutely. Well, one statistic I found, and there were a few that sort of had varying numbers, but essentially the statistics on flossing are thus. About 1/3 of people floss daily, so that would include us. We can pat ourselves on the back for that. 1/3 floss semi-regularly. Now, that wasn't too well defined in many of these. I would assume that's sort of a once a week after certain meals, like a steak
you had a
or
big
something.
Steak. You went to Ruth's Chris.
You went to Ruth's Chris, got to get the sirloin out of your molars, and then 1/3 never floss. So you essentially have the majority of the nation barely flosses or never flosses, and then about 1/3 is diligent.
I feel like this 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 is a pretty good breakdown of how often people practice good habits. And not to say that I practice every good habit, but I feel like for most things, it's like 1/3 of people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. 1/3 of people kind of sometimes are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And 1/3 of people are never doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And, one thing we always talk about is floss breath. That is one of the worst types of breath someone can have. Floss breath is essentially the just stale smell of someone's breath who never flosses. And you can basically smell like food in their teeth that they haven't unearthed with floss. They haven't, there's those hard to reach places with your toothbrush they haven't gotten to because they don't floss. And it's one of just the worst breaths out there.
It is difficult to describe. I have never smelled a dead person. I'd have to imagine it smells like death. I think that there is just something about it that prompts an active recoil from it. It's to the point where if I am around somebody with floss breath, will be shallowly breathing through my mouth throughout the entire interaction.
I'll back up. I will literally pretend to adjust my glasses or scratch my face or I'll hold my sleeve up to my nose to get a whiff of the detergent on my sweater.
I'll stick my nose away like I'm underwater swimming laps, and then get back into the conversation.
Well, I feel, I think I'm someone who has a very good sense of smell. I think I have a good palate when it comes to cooking and eating. I think I just can detect smells from a certain way. And it's a blessing and a curse. I can smell flowers, but I can also smell floss breath.
You're olfactorily gifted.
I'm olfactorily blessed. Yeah, you could say that. And I think, floss breath, it's accentuated. Like people who smoke often have it. Because if you smoke, you probably don't have the best, dental hygiene. And then people who are dehydrated, I feel like, dehydration is frankly one of just the most bad breaths, I feel like, are just related to dehydration.
You got to rinse it out. You got to rinse the Petri dish.
Well, while we're on the topic of breath, we want to play a little game here. We're each going to do our top 3 worst breaths. So I'll let you go first. We've probably touched on a couple of these in our previous discussion here, but why don't we go top 3 worst breaths? You go first.
I'd say a cigarette breath, or not just one cigarette, but that of a regular smoker is really, it gets deep in there, and it's
If you ever have a cigarette or cigar, then the next morning you're kind of like, and you kind of wake up and are tasting your breath, and you're like, oh, and then just imagining a lifetime of that. Whew, rough
stuff.
I would say my number 1 worst breath, I think garlic breath is really up there. I want to say specifically jarred garlic because, raw garlic, it does have that strong pungent smell, but jarred garlic has this fetid, slimy, rotted, and then I feel like it people who have it maybe cause you to burp. I've had it before on pizza and I've been makes me burp more than fresh garlic. And look at you, you're kind of shiver went down your spine.
I shuddered. Yeah. It intensifies all of the worst parts of the garlic flavor, the jarring process.
All right, what's your number 2 worst breath?
Just beer, booze,
Booze breath?
Booze breath. Someone comes up to you with hot booze breath, that's no good.
Being in a crowded bar, someone with hot beer breath yelling at you is pretty insufferable. My number 2 worst breath, I would say, now I want to start at morning breath because I think morning breath, you wake up in the morning, it's terrible. And there's a funny irony with morning breath in which, it kind of just speaks to the human condition. For most people, the last thing you do before you go to bed is you brush your teeth. And yet, the first thing you realize when you wake up in the morning is you have terrible breath. Like, it just speaks to the human condition of you always need maintenance. You're never, it's one step forward, two steps back, right? It's just so true to the Sisyphean nature of being human.
We're rotting from the inside out.
Exactly. So I think morning breath, but I'm going to pivot a little bit. I don't think it's morning breath necessarily. I remember one Christmas, hot chocolate is something we always have on Christmas morning. And usually on Christmas, I'll get up early, open some presents, and then maybe take a little nap later in the day watching, all the basketball that's on. And I remember one Christmas I had hot chocolate and then I took a nap for a couple hours and then I woke up and hot chocolate plus nap equals one of the worst breaths. Like I was like, I'm going to go brush my teeth. I was so terrible. I think maybe it's the sugar from the hot chocolate, the dairy. I don't think dairy's great with breath. And then of course the nap, we talk about the mouth as a petri dish. Anytime you're asleep for an extended period of time, you're just letting the bacteria do its thing.
Yeah. Yeah. My next awful breath is coffee breath.
Oh, yeah.
Which I would say isn't as offensive, but I think there's a theme with you don't want to know what a person has consumed based on their breath.
No. Yes, that's true. That's true.
It's like
you're getting a peek into their guts, and I don't need to be in your guts. Yeah. My last one, my third worst breath is cured meats. So I'm saying like salami, sausage, sort of stuff like that. That's that really salty, briny, spicy kind of smell. I think meat is already not great. A lot of these things too, like garlic and beer and cured meats. These things make you burp too, and I think a burp is like what unearths the terrible breath a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I do think that whenever you indulge in one of these breath-inducing delights here, it really does take flossing to get it all the way out of the mouth. When did you start really flossing?
I would say like probably middle school, early high school, somewhere in there. You maybe were a little later to the party.
I was a what do they say, semi-regular? I was a semi-regular flosser
once a blue moon. Huh?
Until about college. I would usually, you got a dentist appointment coming up. You start eating vegetables before you see the doctor, maybe a week or so before that. But yeah, we used to get in fights because you'd say my breath stank, and I would disagree with you, thinking that you were just trying to razz me, as little brothers are known
as
to
only
do.
brothers can.
As only brothers can. And then, I had to face the reality that maybe my breath did actually
Well,
stink.
even if you have great oral hygiene, most of the time you're going to have terrible breath. Again, just part of being human. I want to pivot now to the subject of fluoride. We have sort of a funny history with fluoride. I know there's some kooks out there who want to get it out of our drinking water. Please don't do that. But let's talk fluoride for a sec. You were the first person who discovered that, in fact, there are two distinct different types of fluoride that are common in sort of oral hygiene products.
Indeed, there is the traditional fluoride. It is sodium fluoride. It's slightly more expensive. And then they recently introduced this newer, cheaper fluoride, stannous fluoride, which the main difference between stannous fluoride and sodium fluoride is that stannous fluoride stains your teeth.
Which is not good for products that are meant to give you good oral hygiene, right?
Exactly. It's defeating the purpose, trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The stains are like the worst, darkest coffee stains you could possibly imagine.
Yes.
We noticed them during
It was COVID.
Yes, where I would say we were attentive to our teeth because there really wasn't anything else to do. And we were top to bottom, the floss, our toothpaste, and our mouthwash, I believe, was all from the brand Crest Pro Health.
Right, which has stannous fluoride.
Stannous fluoride, which is just nuts that Crest is saying Pro Health, which those two things together, that sounds like, let me buy that toothpaste. I don't care that it's cheap. It's got the great marketing.
Right.
But what it did was just rocked our teeth. We were brushing more and more, trying to get it out. Again, just making it worse. Rinsing with this mouthwash that got more and more
it was terrible.
it.
Now, I remember it too. I remember like looking at photos from that time and like, selfies or whatever. I'm smiling. I'm like, God, man, that looks terrible. Like, it is really like, you're right. It's like the absolute worst coffee or like smoking stains you've ever seen. It's totally comparable to that.
Now, these stains are not necessarily bad for your teeth. When we went to the dentist, they knocked them right out.
Right.
And they told us what type of toothpaste were you using? And we told them, and they're like, oh, no,
Yes.
you can't be doing that.
I think they said too, like, oh, we had one of their representatives come here and tried to sell us a bill of goods.
Yeah.
I
If you're in the toothpaste sale business and you're doing the toothpaste that stains your teeth, where's your love of the game? Where's your dignity?
Yeah, it's sleazy. But yeah, we've been lucky. The early part of our life, we had a very good dentist, and in the later part of our life, we've had not as good of dentists, and we want to pivot from fluoride to dentist now and just sort of talk about what we think separates a good dentist from a bad dentist. We'll start with good dentist. John, what do you think sort of the hallmarks of a good dentist?
Well, they're friendly. They're honest with you. They're kind of like a mechanic.
Yes.
They're not going to try to upsell you. They're going to tell you the hard truths. For once, our dentist, I think can we say their name on the podcast? Would this give
it's
them
good, but
unwanted
we don't
attention?
have to.
We don't have to.
Yeah.
They know who they are.
They are a Sacramento-based dentist who is very adept at what they do.
Yes. But he told us, you don't need to mouthwash. Because you never get mouthwashed at the dentist.
No,
they don't
you
ever
never.
say or rinse this with this, alcohol-based substance. They're chatty. You develop a relationship hopefully with your dentist. This dentist that we've been going to, basically since we had teeth.
Yeah.
And what's wonderful about going in that office is like sometimes you sit down in the chair and the dental hygienist who cleans your teeth, they're like looking back at their files like, I cleaned your teeth when you were 7 years old.
Oh, it's incredible. There's a very intimate relationship when you go to a dentist for a long time, and I just think it's an intimate profession. I mean, you're rooting around in people's mouths. There's a level of intimacy there, right? So I think a good dentist makes you feel comfortable with that. Where conversely, a bad dentist, the first thing that happens when you come in is they're immediately judging you, right?
Yes.
And they're trying to figure out. They see your mouth and they see, how can I make $10,000 to $50,000 out of this mouth? They make it seem like a miracle your teeth haven't fallen out. We went to a dentist here in Los Angeles, and on the outside of the building, it's all advertising Invisalign, teeth whitening, veneers,
cosmetic,
all these cosmetic changes that don't necessarily mean you have healthy teeth. I think there's this big misconception where people think if you have big, white, fake teeth, you have good teeth, and that is just not the case at all. And, we went in and, our old school dentist, the good dentist, always would do x-rays and always did a great job. And this new dentist we had gone to, we did not like, did a 3D model of our teeth, which we'd never had done before. It's this big, expensive machine. They make a 3D model of your teeth.
They got this wand that they're moving around your teeth, jabbing it in there, bouncing it up and down.
And I remember, I grind my teeth a little at night. And I remember...
Sue me.
Yeah, sue me. I'm a little stressed out, okay? Look who I got to host a podcast with. And the good dentist told me, if you ever are worrying about it, what you can do is you just buy a mouth guard, Target, Amazon, really cheap, and you put it in and you'll be good. And when I went to this bad dentist who did the 3D modeling, I kind of wanted to test them, right? Because they're like, I noticed you grind your teeth and, maybe you should get a mouth guard. And I said, well, what do you think? Should I just Target, Amazon, get like a cheap mouth guard? And they're like, oh, no. You got to get the mouth guard from the 3D model because it's going to be better aligned to your teeth. And I was like, and how much exactly would that cost? And they were like, well, you can ask the receptionist. And I got out and asked the receptionist, hey, they mentioned, possibly a 3D model mouth guard. How much would that cost? The receptionist was like, $800. And I was like, I'm going to need to think about it. And I headed out. And it's just like, yeah, man, anytime, you mentioned like the mechanic comparison, anytime you're going to someone, an expert, and there's a level of trust and a level of intimacy, it really feels bad when they're trying to burn you, when they're trying to take advantage.
It's awful. I mean, especially for that. I wore mouth guards because I played lacrosse in high school. And you know what makes a 3D model of your teeth? Soaking a mouth guard that's made of rubber in warm water for 30 seconds, then putting it in your mouth. There's a perfect 3D model of your teeth. But yeah, this dentist, I also go to it. They have a plaque on the wall that they have the most Invisalign sold. Now, no hate on Invisalign. Invisalign's good. It's a great product. Our fine producer, WC Slade, is showing off his chompers.
What's the status on a sponsorship? We still work out we sent the email. All right. Checks in the mail. All right.
But they advertised that they had the most Invisalign sold, which means that if you are the most Invisalign sold, I can't imagine that the area in which this dentist is located has the people with the most teeth in need of fixing. Yeah. It means that you've given Invisaligns to people who didn't necessarily need Invisaligns. And I was wondering, are these people profit motivated? I look up on their wall and there is a plaque dedicated to a son of one of the dentists or a relative of some sort who plays for UCLA tennis. Now, UCLA and tennis are both rather expensive things to get into.
Unless you got a scholarship.
Which, you
but
know,
even
possibly.
still, even to earn a tennis scholarship, you would have had to have spent a lot of money in the kid's childhood.
A lot
for
of
tennis
tooth dollars
lessons.
went to that. And then I've had other dentists in college. I went to one when I was in the waiting room. They had Dr. made up name, Dr. Marcia. It was on all of the water bottles. And I was like,
branded water
bottles that
Okay,
said Dr. Marcia, not Arrowhead, not the Dasani, Dr. Marcia. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I think I'm in trouble. They wanted to cap all of my teeth.
Oh, man.
Put a cap on top of all of them.
They wanted to give you the Hollywood chomps.
Yes,
huh?
yeah. And at this new dentist that we go to, I just went in for a teeth cleaning. A good dentist will clean your teeth with care. They know that this is sort of the bread and butter of their business. You're going to be coming back there 1 to 2 times a year to get your teeth cleaned, and that's steady money. A dentist who is just after your money, they will clean them with disdain. They will do the absolute bare minimum job.
Yeah.
And then another final thing, I chipped a molar, which is never a good thing. The way that they put my molar back together was they numbed it a bit, and then there's just like with a drill, just drilling down my molar in my mouth. It's numb. I'm staring off. I can smell my tooth burning. Which is a unique sensation akin to hair burning. And they formed this sort of, composite substance into my tooth, and then it dries, and then they're going, and then she's like, good, and I would close my mouth, and I'd be like, no, it's still way too big. Good, like over and over and over again. I had to ask her over and over and over again to grind that tooth down to a reasonable level. I finally get it to a reasonable level, and I realize they have fused my back molars together, so I can't floss in between my 2 back teeth. I call them, let them know. They say, come back in a week, we'll help you out. Meanwhile, I've got these 2 teeth fused together. They use a piece of metal floss to break that, and now, thanks to that 3D modeling, when I went back to the dentist's, I've noticed that the fixing of my tooth is even worse than the chipping that originally happened. So, long story short, try to get a good dentist.
Try to get a good dentist, because all these bad dentists, what they're doing is they're chasing this false perfection. They're so preoccupied with fake teeth and, cosmetic appearances of teeth that they don't care about the actual health of your teeth. And I think America as a whole has this obsession with big, white, fake, unattainable teeth. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this fake teeth propaganda. And we're back. Before we begin, buddy, you were running a little hot there talking about bad dentists.
Yeah.
You got a sip of water, you cooled off a bit.
I cooled down. I'm back. I'm good.
Good. We don't got to monitor the blood pressure or anything. You're good.
Sorry to our producer, Will, for probably pushing it way into the red there.
No worries.
Did my voice get really high-pitched? Was I...
Yeah, you were squeaking a bit like you had helium. Always saying no. All right, well, what do I know? Okay, so we, as promised, we're going to discuss some fake teeth propaganda. I think it's... Fake teeth and the obsession with perfect, white, unattainable teeth is a uniquely American problem. I think about guys like us, for instance, guys who brush twice a day, floss every day, take care of our teeth, have very, very good teeth in terms of the health. However, in just the appearance of our teeth, we would never be on television given our teeth. Like, we have good, pretty white teeth, but it's like, on the sides and molars, it's slightly yellower, right? And it's not like we have big, giant, fake movie star teeth.
No, I would say I have large teeth.
Sure.
They're big.
You got the bones.
I got decent bones,
Right,
The dentist looks and it's decent bones. So a quick remodel, we'd be good to go here.
But I think, it's more speaks to our culture that we are so used to on television seeing big, white, fake teeth. And it is literally screwed up my brain. Like when I watch old movies from like the 70s or 80s, like one movie that comes to mind is Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer. I think that's from the early 90s. Michelle Pfeiffer, one of the most beautiful actresses who's ever lived. And she has fine teeth. Her teeth are like totally fine. But like you compare her teeth to the teeth now where everyone has veneers, everyone has super whitened fake teeth, and we literally have just the media and this fake teeth propaganda is like warped our brains to where when we don't see giant big fake white teeth on television, we're like, oh, that's weird. Like watching the Oscars recently, it was like, oh, that person doesn't have big, giant, fake teeth. That's weird. Everyone's supposed to have big, giant, fake teeth on television. Like, don't you feel like your brain's been warped a little by this?
Totally. It's like you're a quirky little rascal for having your own regular teeth. And I think part of how perfect teeth have gotten has led to this almost counterintuitive increased valuation of regular seeming teeth or slightly imperfect teeth. And I think I honestly, because I had retainers that I wore forever and ever, and it just would never finally close the gap in between my two front teeth. And eventually I just decided, you know what, forget it. I'm done. It's enough. The teeth are fine. I'm just going to accept this imperfection. I'm not gonna give in to the American propaganda that we're exposing here on this podcast.
One commercial that always made me laugh is, and they've done this a few times over the years, is they'll do these like toothpaste commercials. And they'll be like, do you pass the tissue test? And it'll be like some model holds up like a piece of tissue paper to their teeth, and their teeth are slightly less white than the tissue paper. And they're like, oh, I'm hideous. And it's like, our teeth should not be as white as something that is chemically bleached. Like it is just so unnatural. Like the goalposts of what is considered healthy, attractive teeth has been moved so far into such a crazy, unnatural place.
Yeah, I think when you start noticing these things, you do start being like, I am no longer. You're like seeing the magician pull off the trick. You see behind the thing, and that commercial that you mentioned, we were so obsessed with that commercial that we noticed that it changed. Do you remember? When she held the tissue up after she had applied the treatment, whatever it was, to her teeth that made it whiter, she was like a bajillion times whiter.
I think she said a zillion
times whiter.
Yeah.
And then months later, whoever this Crest, whoever it was, Colgate, they must have gotten sued because she was like almost 16 times whiter.
Yes, it's like they probably got sued because it's like someone was like, okay, this product does not make your teeth a zillion times whiter, a fake number amount, whiter. It was just so ridiculous. But yeah, it's just so crazy. I mean, I think actors almost do themselves a disservice if they change their teeth. Like think of so many great actors, like Steve Buscemi is known for having, kind of crooked, not perfect teeth, but it lends so much gravitas to him as an actor. Or, Jack Nicholson has very, very good teeth naturally, but they're kind of sharp, and like when he plays sort of villainous characters, it lends itself to that. Morgan Freeman has imperfect teeth, and so if you're an actor getting teeth that look like every other actor, you're almost stripping away some of your individuality.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember there was Anthony Anderson famously has a decent sized gap in his teeth, and he was hosting a game show where Michael Strahan was a contestant on the game show. Strahan also famously had a gap in between his teeth, which he then fixed.
I think he still has it. Anthony Anderson, I think,
Anthony Anderson fixed it.
Anthony Anderson fixed it. I think you have it backwards. I think Strahan did not. Too much money on the line. I'm sure their publicists ran the numbers. But, there's a lot of different celebrities who get these veneers, these fake white teeth.
But yeah, I think if you take away your teeth, you do change something fundamental about yourself.
And so some lists of celebrities who've done I think about NBA stars in their second season. You'll often see like Trae Young's a good example. His first season didn't have great teeth, then he came back with huge chomps. Or Shaq has probably the widest smile in the entire world. He didn't do it during his playing career necessarily, but a lot of NBA players will do it. Young pop stars will always do it as they grow up. Like Miley Cyrus has just insanely huge teeth now, and then Taylor Swift is on like her fourth era of teeth. Like she had like her teeth she grew up with, then she got kind of famous, got more teeth, and then her teeth leading up to the Eras tour, and then afterwards she has her post Eras tour teeth, and they're just huge. I mean, Miley and Taylor, like two of the biggest pop stars in the world, the hugest teeth. It's like it randomly reminds me of, there was this interview with Frank Sinatra where Frank Sinatra, it was like the 80s in his late career, and he was saying the reason singers aren't good anymore is because none of them smoke anymore. And I think nowadays the equivalent of that is, unless you have giant fake teeth as a pop singer, you're not going to have a good voice.
To me, it almost seems like a risk. Like it could throw off whatever is distinct about your voice if you have too big of chompers.
Rappers rappers will often do it. Rappers will do grills too, which I'm sure are a dental hygiene nightmare. I assume those are just bacteria farms, right?
I wonder. Maybe you take your teeth more seriously if you have a grill. It would be the height of the Gilded Age of modern American culture to have grills over awful dental hygiene.
But yeah, rappers will do it like Glorilla, Lado. I'll often see them like just random videos of them online, like doing interviews and stuff. And it's just like, God, their teeth. I mean, you can see them from a mile away.
You are a huge Glorilla.
Oh, I'm huge. Fan. I'm huge. Yes, I don't know them solely because I see videos of their giant teeth. And then, the other big group of celebs who will get them are actors who hit it big. So Tom Cruise, early in his career, The Outsiders didn't have very good teeth. Then he kind of hits it big, and he's known for his big white teeth.
When you're famous, it's almost like you go through another childhood. Those adult teeth that you have, those are coming out too, and you're getting your real teeth. Right. And the more famous you get, the more phases you go through.
But I think the thing to stress is big, huge, fake white teeth don't necessarily indicate that they are healthy teeth. I remember I had this dental hygienist who would talk about veneers, and she'd be like, I'll look through an InStyle or a People magazine, and I'll see celebrities who have big, white teeth, and I'll look and be like, they have gum disease. And it's just like crazy to hear that perspective. And yeah, it is just so odd that our brains have been warped to believe that these giant fake teeth mean celebrities are healthy. There's that guy the guy who's trying to reverse his aging, Brian Johnson, yes. Right? And he does all these things to like maintain his fitness, and he avoids alcohol, and he eats all this healthy food.
Supplements, vitamins.
Yeah, and then the two crazy things about him are he has implanted fake teeth and dyed hair. It's just like, I don't know what fake teeth and dyed hair, they have no indication that you are healthy, but I guess it just gives that cosmetic appearance of healthiness.
Yeah, he's not afraid of cosmetic stuff too. He's getting the micro needling in his face to give him baby skin.
But you brought up this the other day, A-Rod. We read that article about Alex Rodriguez where he kind of came out and was saying how he had gum disease. And it was just shocking because obviously you look at a picture of A-Rod, he's got big, white, good-looking teeth.
Yeah.
And, wasn't taking care of them. I think he mentions, in the press release or whatever it was, that his statement that he didn't take care of them and, didn't take it as seriously and maybe didn't get that education. I guess you probably, when you're young, you should get a good education. You should have a dentist or dental hygienist scare you into taking care of your teeth.
Yeah. I mean, there's programs where dentists will come to schools now.
Right.
And get kids, on the right track. And I just think it is one of those things where once you start, you don't stop. Once you begin flossing and you really incorporate it as a habit, you are repulsed by the thought of not flossing.
It's so gross. Like, even if I go one day without flossing, it's just super gross. And it's just one of those things that you once you commit to it, you're never going to go back.
No. And I encourage everybody to commit to it because if you talk to my brother and I and you don't floss, we know.
Yeah, we'll sniff you out. We'll sniff you out. All right, well, it appears now we are on Mount Sinai, and God is handing us a couple of tablets, and written upon these tablets are the teeth commandments. So these are our 10 commandments we came up with. Sometimes in these games we'll kind of compete. We'll go toe to toe, but this one was a little more collaborative. These teeth commandments, we worked on these together with the Lord Almighty and collaborated, and we got 10 here, and we think they're pretty good. You want to go odd or even, buddy?
I'll take odd. Thou shalt brush twice a day and floss once a day.
I think that's
number one.
Yeah. What's the first commandment is thou shalt not have any other gods beside me, right?
Isn't right.
That the first one? So it's like, like the 10 commandments, the teeth commandments likewise are ordered in, which one you should follow the most faithfully.
That's number one. If you follow that one, the others are not as important.
Good. Number two, thou shalt floss before thou brushes. Now, we were a little late to this one. We used to brush first and then floss, and we didn't really do mouthwash. And the thing that happens when you brush first and then floss is you're kind of like you're brushing, which is good for your teeth, but then you're flossing and unearthing some of the gross stuff that was in your teeth, and then you're just going about your day with the unearthed. It's kind of another version of floss breath, even though you're taking care of your teeth, right? Whereas, if you floss first and then you brush, you kind of are able to unearth the gunk, and then you brush and take care of all the little, nitty gritty places, right?
Yeah, I think it's the right way to go. I mean, you're loosening up the filth and then you're brushing it all out.
It's like a car. If you're cleaning the wheels of your car, you want to get some of the leaves and dirt out of the spokes before you hit it with the, I don't know.
I'm not sure you're landing the plane on that one.
Maybe not the best analogy. All right, number 3. What's the third teeth commandment?
If thou eats or drinks something sugary, thou shalt rinse out thine mouth with water.
Good. Rinse out your mouth with water. Yeah, I used to work at a candy store, and I remember telling that to my dental hygienist kind of nervously. I was like, hey, I work at a candy store. Are my teeth okay? And they're like, yeah, the biggest thing is if you eat something sugary, just rinse your mouth out with water. Just get that sugar somewhat off your teeth, and brush when you can. But yeah, that's a big thing. And just honestly, if you have bad breath, take a big old sip of water, swish it around your mouth. It'll probably improve it at least 10%.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you just need to keep it fresh in there. You don't want the fluid getting stale.
No.
Change the oil.
Change the oil. Hey, there you go. You landed one with the car. There you go, buddy. We're car guys. All right, a couple of grease monkeys, aren't we? All right, number 4. Cover thy mouth if thou hast bad breath and feels a need to talk. Now, I feel like I abide by this pretty well. I feel like if I've had booze or I've had garlic or something and I'm talking to someone and I know my breath's not awesome, I will cover my mouth and kind of lean in. I feel like it's on you if you know you might have bad breath to just sort of proactively do that, because no one's ever going to tell you have bad breath.
Sure. I would say sometimes it's tough to know if you do have bad breath. My corollary to this is if I need to talk, which as evidenced by this podcast, clearly I do. While I'm eating, I think you can talk with food in your mouth so long as you cover the mouth.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah. That's true too. Just covering the mouth. When in doubt, cover the mouth.
If your mouth's gross, cover your mouth.
That's a good one. All right, I think we're on number 5. Go for it.
Thou shalt not use products with stannous fluoride.
This is your hobby horse.
You can't do it, folks. If you have Crest Pro Health, if I'm not rummaging through cabinets when I visit other people's houses, but if often toothpaste is something that's out on the counter, and you see it. If I see Crest Pro Health, I think you know absolutely nothing about taking care of your teeth.
Well, you pull them aside and give them a little tip.
It's tough to do that, although I would tell anybody right now, check the back of your dental products. If it says stannous fluoride on it, there will also be something that will say this product may stain your teeth. They warn you on the back of the product, but no one ever reads the fine print in this fast food culture we live in.
That's why you listen to the Flynn Brothers podcast. You get all these tips spoon-fed.
We're exposing the propaganda.
Yeah. All right, number 6 of our teeth commandments. Thou shalt brush thine tongue. Yeah. The tongue is sort of ground zero for bad breath. A lot of bad breath coming from the tongue, and it's important to brush. I will say, when I brush my tongue, every other time I gag, and it's pretty uncomfortable, but it is good to. It's the worst sound you'll hear when someone's brushing their tongue, and maybe it goes a little too far back. But you gotta do it.
You gotta get back there. The back of the tongue is where it's at the absolute worst. The tongue is a carpet in a subway.
Yes,
it's just catching it all.
I don't know that tongue scraping is 100% mandatory. I've done it once in a while. But, couldn't hurt.
Speaking of the propaganda, the way they get you to buy those tongue scrapers is they have you drink a glass of milk and then scrape your tongue. Of course it's going to look absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. More lies.
Brushing is fine. Teeth. Scraping, I would say, not necessary. But, hey, more power to you. You want to scrape your tongue, go for it.
Go for it. Number 7, go for it.
Thou shalt not go to bed before brushing thine teeth. Now, nobody wants to brush their teeth before they go to bed.
No,
especially if you nod off in front of the television. You don't want to wake yourself up, but you got it.
You have to.
Worse than drinking too much or eating something you shouldn't have late at night. If you wake up the next morning, you feel your teeth and they're unbrushed. You just feel, I don't need to put this in the second person. I feel terrible.
It's a bad way to start your day. I'll say this. There's 365 days in a year. I would say I brush my teeth before bed 360 to 61 of those days. There's just kind of every 4 months or so, it'll be a late night. I'll fall asleep. I'll be lazy, whatever it is. And I really feel shame and regret the next day. But yeah, you really have to do it. You really have to do it.
Maybe you should allow yourself those 4 days if you're just to know deep down the pain and the disgust with yourself.
The other thing, you never know who you're going to meet in your dreams. You want to meet someone with terrible unbrushed teeth? I don't think so.
Have you ever had a breath dream?
God, I don't think so.
I don't know if you have breath in your dreams. I'm not sure. We'll see tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, number 8. Thou shalt warn thine neighbor of food in thine teeth. If your pal's got food in their teeth, let them know. I think telling someone they have bad breath is a little, it's stepping over a line. You got to be really good friends with them. You got to be a brother to them. But food in the teeth, I think you can almost do it with a stranger, someone you've just met, even, or I really think that's something where, hey, buddy, like save him some face. Don't call him out in front of everyone.
Not in front of everyone. You pull him aside. I think it'd be a pretty good way to make a fast friend.
Yeah, probably true. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, because you don't love people for what you do for them, but what they do for you, I believe, is something that I've been told. And if somebody, they do that for you, I'd feel a real kinship towards somebody if I still, hey, you got a little something in your teeth there.
Right.
Toothpicks, too. Every restaurant should have toothpicks.
You're a big toothpick guy. We'll go out to eat and you'll get a toothpick going. And somehow, whenever you put it in, a leather jacket appears and a motorcycle
My
pulls
hair
up.
gets slicked back.
What is that?
It's not because I think toothpicks are cool, which they are. It's because my teeth have the perfect size gaps in them for meat and fish to wiggle their way in.
We're at a deli, pastrami sandwich. That's going to be a toothpick.
Yeah, I need a toothpick.
All right,
you guys got toothpicks?
You guys got toothpicks?
That's how I say it.
Number 9, go for it.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's fake teeth.
Yeah, man. You see a lot of fake teeth on TV. Don't get jealous. Don't go over to your dentist and say, "Give me the Penelope Cruz." I don't know. You don't go ask. Don't go ask for bespoke fake teeth from your dentist. Just be happy with your teeth. Take care of your teeth. And hopefully you'll have them for life.
Yeah, I think you never know what another person's teeth are doing for them. You might be jealous of them, but maybe they're a lot of upkeep. Maybe they're in some rotten gums,
That's right.
And I think you just really should make peace with your own teeth.
Yeah.
If you want to get different teeth, that's fine. But, I'd recommend to everybody, love the teeth you got.
Wow, we're getting a little didactic. Maybe you more so than me, but who's to say? Okay, last one. Number 10, the 10th teeth commandment. Thou fake teeth may be big, but not huge. A callback to our second episode. You can be big, but you can't be huge. That, of course, dealt with fame and fatness. This deals with your teeth. If you are going to get big fake teeth and join the bandwagon of fake, unattainable white Hollywood teeth, then get them big. If you're getting fake teeth, you may as well get them big, but don't get them huge. No. Don't get them huge.
As a final question, just off the cuff here,
Sure.
have we reached peak teeth?
Peak teeth? Yeah, man. I
Are they getting bigger?
Yeah.
Will they get bigger? Are they going? Are we regressing back to a more natural state of being?
I feel like fast food's getting smaller, teeth are getting bigger. What happened to early 2000s America was the opposite, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. I do think it'll eventually hit a wall. I mean, you're seeing young actors now like Sydney Sweeney, Timothy Chalamet is a good example, where they have very, very good teeth, but they're not fake veneers, and they're younger, right? Maybe they'll hit a day later in their career where they do it, but it's just kind of frankly refreshing to see actors with their own teeth, and it's like, as someone who's mind has been polluted by all the fake teeth propaganda, it's almost like quaint and sweet. Like, oh, it's like it's the 70s again. Oh, look, a cap. Oh, look, a little cavity, a little filling. And I just hope people take better care of their teeth and rock with what the good Lord gave them.
Yeah, individuality is not a bad thing. And I think particularly if you're someone who's on TV and whatnot, having a set of your own natural chompers, it helps you stand out.
I think so. Do you think we took a pretty good big bite out of teeth this episode?
I'd say we got a whole mouthful.
All right. In that case, please subscribe, comment, and leave a rating. Send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. Thank you to our producer, Will Slade, and we'll see you next time on the Flynn Brothers Podcast. Take care, buddy.
Buddy, take care.